Hi, I'd like to talk to you about my experiences with my mom and her dementia. Um, it's been quite the challenge. Before 2019, it became evident to my sister and I that my mom's dementia had progressed to the point that she needed to be moved out of independent living and into assisted, but mom couldn't accept that she had dementia and railed against every attempt to help her. She would sometimes get paranoid and accuse whichever of us was talking to her that we were trying to get her money. She would be insulting sometimes. She would get angry and yell at us, and it was very painful. We were just trying to help, but my mom couldn't accept the fact that she had dementia. She was fighting against that and so badly because it scared the bejesus out of her. Well, it got to the point that she was malnourishing herself because she didn't believe she had money in the bank to pay groceries, wasn't paying her rent and bills, and the only good news came in early 2019 when she finally accepted that dementia isn't a death sentence due to some books that she had read. The paranoia and insults stopped, and it helped that I also learned better how to communicate with her in her reduced state. My sister had a harder time making that transition with her because she was still inclined to argue and pressure mom to do what was best for her, which automatically made mom resist, as she's very independent and has been her whole life. My sister came up with the idea that it would be best if I moved from Wisconsin to Ohio, near her, so that we could convince mom to move up from Atlanta. Given her far more entrenched life in Ohio, I realized that it wouldn't be fair to ask her and her family to move to Wisconsin, so we moved in August of 2019, and I'm still dealing with the consequences, primarily in my kids, but also because I really haven't been able to develop a social network. Within 15 days of arriving, my mom fell in her bedroom. This is in Atlanta. And could either remember to crawl to the bathroom to pull the cord, which is to say the emergency cord that's often installed in nursing homes in the bathroom, because a lot of elderly people fall in the bathroom. She couldn't get up. She didn't even have the strength to do either of them. And it was only due to the fact that her social worker and I had arranged for her to get Meals on Wheels that she's still alive. She lay there for at least 2 days, maybe as many as 3, before the next delivery of food, at which point they saw that her food was still on her doorknob from the last visit, and alerted her social worker. The team got in and sent mom to ER because she was laying in her own excrement and was very weak and emaciated. I was contacted about this that day while our dad, aunt, and uncle were visiting from out of state. From there, she went to rehab. Every weekend, we drove from the Cincinnati area down to Atlanta and saw mom, cleaned all the useless stuff out of her apartment, and drove back up in my sister's van with some of her possessions. Fortunately, she was cogent enough at that time to tell us that she wanted to make a power of attorney, but her memory was bad enough that she couldn't remember the one she'd secretly made in the 1990s with basically the same instructions. And so we were able to finally get a new one made, which allowed me to pay her bills and such. I, alone, spent a month learning about what we needed to do to help mom, such as, after asking her, setting up her burial plot and funeral, spending down her money to get her on Medicaid, learning about all the rights and responsibilities, learning about nursing homes and calling day after day to find out which would take her, and then there was the challenge of getting a yes or no answer. Only one answered. My sister and I continued going almost every weekend for about 1.5 months, and on the last one I finally had a home for her to move into. We moved her up to Ohio and had the third to last family meal of our lives with her at an unfortunately substandard home cooking restaurant on the way up. Our second to last and only full family meal with her was only 3 months later when it was my birthday, and that included our 4 kids and my sister's hubby. It was a really good one, and mom enjoyed it too. We planned to have another for my sister's birthday, but the pandemic stopped that. By the end of the first lockdown, Mom had experienced significant decline due to neglect at the nursing home and natural decline. The second lockdown made it even worse. She went from being a woman with 3 degrees to having the intelligence of a high schooler, but with poor memory. That was hard to see. Of course, the nursing home didn't admit any culpability, but we started to notice signs of neglect last October, as well as further mental decline to grade school level and bad sundowner syndrome too. I filed a complaint with the Ohio Board of Health, or Department of Health, and they upheld my complaint that there was neglect occurring in that nursing home. I would go there every week, and I would see that there was a toenail that had a serious problem with it. I mean, it was one of her big toenails, and it was opaque, white, and very elevated. And I finally realized that she had somehow managed to seriously damage it, and they weren't doing anything about it. There was blood crusted around the whole nail for months, and the old nail wasn't falling off. It was still stuck there. And eventually I could see the new nail growing underneath it. And so that was disturbing, and I also noticed that they were keeping her footies on so much that the skin was drying out and becoming very scaly, and so I was putting lotion on her feet to try and help restore her feet, the condition of her skin. In 2020, I finally became her Social Security Administration representative payee. I forgot to mention that, sorry. Dealing with the previous home to get her out was a challenge. They weren't brushing out her hair, so it was always snarled. And they weren't properly cleaning her room or taking care of her medical needs. It seemed like the social worker was deliberately trying to prevent Mom's departure by losing paperwork and lying to me. I lost access to my first choice out of 6 worthy homes because of her tactics, so I complained to their headquarters and got lots of placating talk but little action. In the end, I managed to move her into another nursing home last month, but without most of her possessions, despite making requests with 6 different people at the home and headquarters. Or actually, maybe it was more like 8, of which 3 of them were at the headquarters. On the bright side, the headquarters is going to reimburse me to replace her missing walker. Oh, there's a story right there. But all of her clothes and the bedspread she'd had for decades are gone. There was a walker in her room, as well as another well, actually 2 walkers and a wheelchair. I don't know why there was so much stuff in there. It's like they were storing it in there or something like that. And I was looking at it to try and figure out if it was actually Mom's, because it didn't look exactly like Mom's. And when I opened up the seat of the walker, because there was a fold down seat with a bag compartment underneath, the bag compartment was partially filled with this brown congealed, I don't know what. I don't know if it was food or if it was poop or what it was. All I knew was there was no way in heck that I was going to take that walker. And this was the day before Mom was supposed to move. So yeah. The worst irony of it is yesterday when I went to get the last of Mom's possessions that they had actually bothered to find for me, and that was a very minimal effort. The person who had done that, he was from the headquarters, he brought down the same walker that I'd complained about. And it still had some of that brown stuff in it. On the bright side, the head of housekeeping had cleaned one of Mom's personal pieces of furniture that we put in there, which was a cushioned bench. So the bench looked very, very nice. Yeah, that pissed me off. So on the right side, yeah, again, I'm getting her a new walker at their expense. The day before I moved her out, her room was filthy. I mean, there was food lying around, the floor was sticky and dirty, and it was gross. And of course, her hair hadn't been done Um, but then the next day when I went there to move her, the room was miraculously clean. What a surprise! I took a few photos the night before though, because I figured that was probably going to happen. Mom is already showing increased cognitive ability and better memory at the new nursing home, and the staff keep the place clean and get my mom out of bed whether she wants to or not, and into the community room every day. They tell me she talks a lot. They also tell me that she can be kind of unpleasant, especially when it comes to moving her or turning her over, because for some reason she doesn't want to turn over in bed anymore. On the very bright side, aside from that, she no longer thinks that I'm my dad or one of her brothers or somebody else. She actually seems to be recognizing me for who I am, which is the first time she's done that in at least half a year, maybe more, probably more. No, when I first moved my mom into that nursing home, I thought that this was going to be good, not great, because I know a little bit about nursing homes, and I knew that this nursing home was only rated a 3 out of 5. And I noticed when I got her signed up, because I had no choice, there were no other nursing homes that were saying yes, because she was pre-Medicaid at that point. And even the other ones that said, yes, we take pre-Medicaid, didn't bother to answer me. So I noticed that the admissions guy was, kind of giving me a little bit of marketing BS. But I thought, okay, it's going to be okay. And it seemed to be okay. I mean, we visited regularly, especially me. And I think that kind of kept them on their toes. But then during the pandemic, we couldn't visit. There were not even lobby visits or window visits for the majority of the past couple of years. And so, they didn't have any oversight by family members, so there was nothing to stop them from neglecting people, and they neglected my mom. And denied it, of course. They blamed it all on the sudden decline because of natural causes. But, we saw when the second lockdown stopped last year, we saw the toenail, we saw the skin, we saw the snarled hair, we saw, the way that calling and asking for something for mom still took a long time. I mean, even before the lockdown, getting them to respond to requests for something often took a long time, and it was worse. One time I came in, she was sitting in a wheelchair next to her bed, facing the meal table, which was against the wall. So she had nothing to look at, and she was just sitting there, and her bed had been stripped. I was there for 2 hours, and I made a request during that visit that somebody please come and put the bed sheets on, and nobody came. And so before I left, I decided I'm going to take mom for a walk and get her out of the room in the wheelchair so that she can, so somebody can come in and put the bed sheets on. And I told them, and when I came back to the room, it still hadn't been done. Mind you, I asked at the beginning of the 2 hours that I was there, basically. And so finally, I talked to one of the nurse's aides, and I told her, look, she still doesn't have a bed to lie down in. Can you please have somebody take care of this? And she herself did it. If I had known that they were being deceitful and covering up the neglect at the home, if I had known that was happening, I certainly would have moved her out a lot sooner. But I really didn't know. And it took until, around last October and November before I knew with any degree of certainty that it wasn't just because of dementia, but because of the decline. So I really can't blame myself too much. But, I would say let me give you some tips about dealing with somebody with dementia. Okay, first of all, if you're going to bring a demented family member into your home and be that person's caregiver, make sure you're not the only caregiver. Make sure that other family members are helping. The reason I say this is because it can be extremely stressful to day in and day out kind of have to be trapped, especially if you are dealing with a family member who also has special medical needs, who can't really be left alone, who may be a wander risk. In other words, they may try to walk out in the middle of a blizzard in their pajamas, or whatever, or just wander away on a hot day and get lost. That was the advice given to my sister and I when we went to a little seminar by a professional nurse who's dealt with the elderly for decades. Is number one, if you're going to have the person in the home, make sure you're not the only person. Make sure there are other family members contributing to her care directly, not just financially. And she also said that when you're dealing with a demented person, you have to remember, oops, that was my chair, sorry. Make sure that you remember that the person is demented, and that you really don't want to argue with them about things they say, because it's probably going to make them combative. They're probably going to resist. They may become paranoid or whatever, but they will then not listen to you, just be wasting your time, and it will be much more difficult that way. And instead, to just kind of go along with what they're saying, and excuse me, it makes it a lot easier if your mom says, well, I just worked in the garden for the past 2 hours, and then I made dinner, and I cleaned up the whole house, and she's been sitting in her bed the whole day, or the whole time, because, you're there with her, or him. Don't argue and say, no, that's not what you were doing, because you're liable to upset that person. They may feel confused, they may feel frustrated, they may feel scared, or something else, but it's going to end up manifesting most likely as anger, as resistance, as even nastiness. If you notice that your loved one is struggling with dementia, don't wait to start to learn what needs to be done to help that person when they're no longer able to help themselves. Keep in mind that calling an ombudsman is only useful if you have a complaint that needs to be resolved with the nursing home your parent is in or your loved one is in. That if you contact that agency for any other kind of assistance, this is based on the experience of myself and a couple of other people. If you call them and say, well, I need to know how to get a POA for my mom, they are liable to assume the worst, that you're trying to get a POA so you can get access to their money, drain it all, and they're going to be very resistant. They may be rude. They may just say, well, look, you don't want to go there, because if you go there, and your loved one's definitely going to call and ask us for help, and because I was trying to, I should have done this in 2019, and I didn't, unfortunately, because I didn't have the foresight to realize how important it was. I had been told to get a health power of attorney as well as the financial one and a living will. I didn't do those things. And so when I called the agency late last year, the response was kind of hostile, and they're like, they kept on assuming that I was I was planning to take mom and make her my dependent, become her ward, I guess you could say, by getting a court-ordered decree to that fact. And I kept on saying, this is not what I want. I'm just trying to help my mom, trying to make sure that I can do the best for her the way she wants things to be done. And the person just wasn't listening. Oh, if you take her to, if you try to get guardianship of her, being a guardian is what it's called. If you try to get guardianship of her, she's going to call us and we're going to take you to court. And I was like, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to help my mom. I love her and I want to take care of her the best I can. And so, it's like a waste of time talking to them. So remember that some of these organizations that deal with the elderly and help the elderly are looking out for the elderly's best interests, and for better or for worse, that means they may be combative toward you when you actually are just trying to help, because of the number of people who prey on the demented to rob them of their property, to rob them of their money, and so on and so forth, and leave them destitute and on the street. And I get that. I absolutely understand that, but you need to understand that can happen to you too. So make sure that you learn how to spend down. If the person needs to be on Medicaid, either in your home or in a nursing home, you need to find out how to spend that money down legally so that you don't get into trouble. And on what you can spend it and what you can't spend it. Like, you can't give it to yourself and your family members as birthday gifts and stuff. You can't. It has to be directly related to your demented loved one's needs. It can't be frivolous. If your loved one needs more clothes, you can do that. If your loved one needs a lift chair because they're struggling to get out of a chair, you can do that. If your loved one needs a medical bed, they can do that. You can do that. But if you want to just do a lot of other things, and even like donating money is very limited. You can donate to the IRS. In some cases, you can donate money to also the Department of Medicaid in your state to kind of help that. But there are a lot of other things that you can't do. And just to set the record clear, what the rules are from one state to another is not consistent. So you do need to look at the rules for your state rather than just take at face value what I'm telling you here. You also need to learn about, do you need to set up the funeral plot and the burial arrangements to help spend down your loved one's bank accounts. And do keep in mind that the person can have one property, I believe, and also for transportation purposes, a vehicle is allowed, but in excess of that, most likely not. You also if your loved one has enough money, you can look at putting some of the money into kind of like a trust fund. It's a special fund for people in that situation. But you actually have to have enough money. I was going to do it for my mom, but there wasn't enough money in my mom's bank account. And so they told me, well, you could do it, but the monthly fees that you have to pay will eventually cause that account to dwindle down to nothing because you won't be earning enough interest relative to the fees that we charge. And so I was very disappointed about that, but what can I do? And then also, when you notice that your loved one is having problems and it's decided that having home care, as in you and or other members of the family are taking care of this person, is not a good idea, and you want to put her into a home eventually, you need to start to research. You can look at Medicare.gov, and there are other websites out there. The Council for Aging, or something like that, and they have one. It's not very good. The Medicare one is better. There's nursing home reviews, and okay, so I'm going to try to make it a little bit more helpful for you. So you can go to Medicare.gov and /care-compare, and then you can specify what you're looking for. It's not a very good search filter system, but at least it'll help a bit. You can also go to www.nia.nih.gov/health/residential facilities, and look for the part for residential facilities, assisted living, and nursing homes. You can type that all in with dashes in between it as well for part of the for the address. You can also go to helpforseniors.org/find-resources/housing-search.aspx. And your state may have a list of facilities as well that can be useful for finding nursing homes. You can also go to nursinghomereport.org and then select your state or city. Of course, if you're in the middle of a small city, it's going to be a very limited result, and you may find that you need to look at the whole state and then just find the zip codes that are within the range that you're willing to travel to see your loved one at their nursing home. And finally, you can go to the Ohio Long-Term Care Facility Search at prod.ltc.age.ohio.gov, or it may be different, obviously, for your state, but this is Ohio, /facility search results. But so you'd have to find out what, if anything, your state has as far as that kind of a resource is concerned. Each one has pros and cons as to what kind of information you can get. Nursing, the Medicare one and the other ones, if they have information, it may be out of date. It may not have the newest information in it. Like when I got the response back, the report back about the complaint that I filed with the Department of Health last year, I looked at the Medicare.gov website. It didn't show anything. There was no update. And it was only on the Department of Health's website that information was available. So you can also look at the Department of Health for information about nursing homes for your state. So there are different options that you possibly are going to have available to you, and there may be other things that you need to do to help your loved one. The Council on Aging can help. The Ombudsman, again, the Ombudsman and the agency, it's a mixed bag when you talk to them. There are other organizations out there that either help out the elderly or help families dealing with the elderly who have problems. Some of them are good, some are not so good. I contacted one here in my area, and they were very nice, but they only had a very limited amount of information. They sent me to a facility which when I visited it, it became clear to me that there were some issues at that facility. So I felt kind of, I'm not saying that it was deliberate on the part of the organization that referred me there, but it was not a helpful choice. And be prepared for the fact that you may have to put your loved one on a waiting list. So that's one of the reasons why it's important when you notice that your loved one has dementia, or worse yet, Lewy body dementia, which is a horrible, horrible disease. It's like Parkinson's disease in reverse. That you immediately start reaching out to the better quality nursing homes. Now, do not look at any nursing home that's rated a 1 or a 2. I would be very careful with ones that are even rated a 3. Only look at the 4-star and 5-star ones, because they may be able to help you and take care of your loved one appropriately. When you're choosing nursing homes, consider how easy will it be to visit weekly at least, because when you visit weekly, and you should visit on different days, not the same day every time, it keeps the nursing home on their toes, and they realize, we've got to take better care of this patient if they're kind of inclined to neglect people who are not visited much or are visited on the same day. So if you visit on the same day, the day before or the day of the day they expect you to come in, they will clean up and make sure your loved one looks nice, and then the rest of the week your loved one will be neglected in some cases. Not every nursing home, but some nursing homes do that. But if you show up on different days every time, they're always going to have to keep on their toes and make sure they're taking good care of your mom, so that, or your dad, or whoever it is, so that they don't get into trouble. But when you do visit, before you visit, when you're looking for nursing homes, make sure to drop in unexpectedly. Do not make appointments to see a nursing home, because that gives the nursing home the chance to clean up and hide anything wrong that they're doing. Speak to experts about nursing homes, and it doesn't matter which of the agencies you call. If it's the Council on Aging, or if it's the Ombudsman's office, the agency where the Ombudsman works, or if it's somebody else that's related, talk to nurses, talk to long-term care nurses, and ask them, what should I be looking for? They can give you good advice if they have experience with long-term care. And then just show up unexpectedly and say, hey, I want a tour. And if they say, well, you need to have an appointment, and you say to them, well, I don't need an appointment, and it is my right to tour your facility now, to make sure that this is a good facility. And if they refuse to allow you in, unless there's like another pandemic lockdown where you're not allowed, then they should not turn you away. If they turn you away, then you should probably report that to the authorities, because it's an indication that there's something wrong. But yeah, go in there and look around. Is it clean? Do you see anything on the floor? Even if it's a small amount of stuff on the floor, that's an indication of a potential problem. Is everything in good condition? Are the hallways wide? They should be wide. Is the flooring, whatever it is, in good condition, or is it damaged? Are the walls in need of repair? Are fixtures and furniture and stuff in good repair so that they're not going to accidentally cause damage to a resident? Do they have, if you need like protection for your loved one if they tend to wander, do they have wander guard type resources, or do they have a locked ward for people who are at risk of wandering away? Do they have a special ward for memory care? Not all nursing homes handle memory care. In fact, not all nursing homes will take Medicaid. Not all nursing homes will even have a long-term care facility like what you might be looking for. So you have to, before you visit, call and ask questions based on what it seems like your loved one is going to need. Does your loved one need independent living, assisted living, short-term like rehab kind of visit, long-term care, memory care? Do they have special medical needs? You're going to need to narrow down the list based on that. So call them up and say, hey, and talk to experts and say, what are the questions I need to ask? And you may be able to find some kind of resource like that online. But it really depends, because there are a lot of questions that you can ask. I asked a ton of questions to every nursing home I called, and I called a lot. Some of them will allow the patient to drink alcohol if there's a doctor's prescription for it. Some of them won't. Some of them many of them are faith-based, and so that could be a consideration for you. So you need to really be very careful and ask them about the number of patients versus the number of aides and nurses, how often the doctor is going to visit. Now, ideally, the more, when you look at the ratio of nurses and aides to patients, it should be like around, I say like overall, if you lump together the nurses and the aides, there's going to be more nurses than aides, and there should be a director of nursing. There should be an assistant director of nursing. They should be like a nurse practitioner or a registered nurse, or a licensed practicing nurse, or LPN. So NP, LPN, or RN, and each ward or section of the nursing home should have a nurse assigned to duty. There should always be at least one nurse. Depending on the size of it, there may need to be 2 or 3 even at night. If it's but they usually break it down so it's not too large. But you should have more nurses aides than nurses, unless you're paying out through the nose for a really top rate facility. But you should look at the ratio and say, okay, do we have at least a ratio of 4 patients per 1 professional? And if you don't see around, I would say around 4 at least, then that could be become a problem unless you're talking about like assisted living or independent living, obviously. But if you're talking about long-term care, memory care, you definitely need to have a better ratio, more staff per the number of patients. Also, if your loved one needs to be on Medicaid, can they get your loved one signed up for Medicaid? Can they do that for you? In which case, they will actually become the legal representative when it comes to interacting with Medicaid. Unless you also are listed somehow, and that takes an authorization from your loved one, generally speaking, you won't be able to call Medicaid up and ask for status on their case. You won't be able to represent your loved one to Medicaid. You'll have to release all those responsibilities to the nursing home if you have the nursing home sign up. And if you can't handle the responsibility of getting your loved one signed up for Medicaid, and I get that, it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do. That may be what you need to do, but you can always say, hey, I need to also have access to, have representation with the Medicaid office and make sure that's a stipulation with the nursing home so they can get that done as well. Okay, so those are all things that you can do to help narrow down which facilities. If you get a weird feeling when you're in there, if you notice negative type interactions occurring, if you notice that the staff is ignoring patients, there may be a good reason for it. Maybe that the patient has a compulsive habit of asking for something constantly or ringing the nurse's button all the time. But you have to take that into consideration. Are patients being ignored, no matter whether the reason is valid or not? That's something that you need to consider, because you can't judge the reason for it. And if you ask them, they may not be honest with you about why they're ignoring the patient. So aside from that, you should also look at the size of the room. Is your loved one going to have like any special things that need to be in the room, like a lift chair, for example? So if it's a tiny room, and I've seen nursing homes where the rooms are tiny. My mom actually, in her first nursing home, did not have a large room. And when you're on Medicaid, you have to share a room unless there are no shared rooms available. So there'll be another patient in the same room. There wasn't room in my mom's room for a lift chair. In her new nursing home, the room space is much larger, and there is room for a lift chair and other stuff. Also, does the nursing home allow things like a fridge in the room? My old nursing home did. Her new nursing home does not. Do they have telephone, or can you get telephone service added to the room? Some homes provide a telephone in the room. Some of them you have to get it turned on by the telephone company. Every place is different. Like the old nursing home my mom was at, the service was available. You just had to provide your own phone, which we did, but my mom took apart her phone, and lost all of the pieces. So that didn't end up working out very well. And, that's what they claimed anyways. It could have been that they were isolating her to prevent her reporting neglect. In her new nursing home, they don't provide a phone or phone service, so I would have to, get it turned on and pay for a monthly service. Let's see what else. There may be, find out about their rules about extra furniture, about televisions. Some places provide a television. Some places will mount the television on the wall for you. Some places will not provide a television, and you can't mount it on the wall. Some places won't allow a television at all. It's all dependent. Do they allow smoking? So where? What kind of how often do the doctors visit? What kind of doctors visit? Um, you should be looking at for the in-house, well, not necessarily in-house, but for the regular doctor to visit preferably at least twice a month, if not more. And that other types of doctors like podiatrists and audiologists and other types of doctors to visit like at least every 3 months, if as and on not necessarily always seeing your loved one, but so that if something does come up and the patient, your loved one needs to be checked out for something, like having their hearing checked, or getting new glasses, or getting cataract surgery, or having problems with their feet, or having problems with their skin, that you know that, oh, I've only got to wait 1 month, 2 months, 3 months before the doctor's going to be in there and look at her, unless it's a very urgent case. Obviously, that's going to be something that has to be dealt with ahead of time. But yeah, so that's also something you should ask them about. And there's, let me see. I'm going to just look at my notes from looking at nursing homes. Look at how much care they put into decorating the place. How nice does it look? Now, this is fairly superficial, but if the decor is sterile, for example, it's not going to be very conducive to the mental stimulation of your loved one. Look at the therapy room and ask, is the therapy provided in-house by staff members, or do you have an agency coming in? And as far as agencies are concerned, how often do they use agencies for the nurses and nurses' aides? What percentage are from agencies? Now, agencies aren't necessarily bad. Some are good, some are bad. Some people from agencies are good, and some others are bad. But there is this kind of unspoken consensus that, generally speaking, the more a nursing home relies on agencies, the worse it is for the residents, because there's this constant change of who is dealing with your loved one, and that means there's no continuity. The information from a previous person isn't necessarily going to be passed on to the new person, which means that something special that is important for your loved one may not be conveyed to a new agency person, and that's definitely a problem. Look for therapy rooms that actually have different kinds of equipment that can be used to help with retraining somebody how to walk, how to go up and down stairs. Ask them, do you provide, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy? Let's see, how often and what kind of activities are there. Ask to see the activity schedule for the month, and ask them to explain the different kind of activities. Make sure that they are not just doing physical activities where they're working the body, but also that they're working on activities for creativity and for intelligence and for socialization. These are all important kinds of activities that need to be done. And ask them how insistent they are with the patients to get them involved in these activities. Like at the old nursing home, mom was resistant and they didn't push her very hard, and that helped contribute to her decline. The new place, they don't give her a choice, and it's helping her to improve. Let's see. Do they have any kind of animals living in the facility? Like some of the places I visited had birds. Some of them had occasionally service dogs that would come in. Does your loved one have an allergy to those animals? Or does your loved one love those animals? Because if your loved one has an affinity for animals and there are animals in the facility that they can at least look at, if not touch, that may help to stimulate them, make them feel calmer and happier. What about the food? And you can try asking the person who's giving you the tour, do you eat the food here? What do you think of the food here? if they eat there, how often do you eat it, and which meals do you like, and what don't you like about the food, and if they're an honest person, they're going to give you an honest answer. If they're not, obviously you're going to get a BS answer, but at least you can try. You can also stand around outside the facility and wait for people who are going in or out, especially elderly people. They may be independent living residents. They may be visiting people living in there, and you can ask them, well, what do you think of this place? How long has your loved one been in here? Is the food good? Are they taking good care? Have you noticed neglect? And, every time I've done that, they've been willing to talk to me and give me information, and that has been valuable. Some places will take Medicaid, but they won't take pre-Medicaid, because sometimes what happens is a nursing home will take somebody in on the assumption that they're going to get Medicaid, and the cost per month is generally like like $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month. And if Medicaid fails to accept your loved one, then you've got that bill to pay, and you may not be able to pay. Then the nursing home doesn't want to take that risk, so they're afraid you're going to default on that. What kind of furniture is in the room? Make sure that they've got beds that are adjustable in terms of the overall height of the bed, as well as the head section. Can it go up? Can it be reclined? And the foot section, can it also be brought up and down and lowered down like this more, so that it's more like being in a recliner? If manually, if not electronically. Usually you're going to see electronic or electrically moved, or they have like a motor for moving the parts. But older beds, you'd have to use the crank system to do that. Do the beds in the home, in the rooms, do they have brakes on them to make sure that the bed can't accidentally be moved around by the resident, or anything like that? When you look in the bedroom, do you see in an empty bedroom that's vacant, do you see potentials for hazards if your loved one were to fall? Let's see. So again, what kind of furniture? They should have a bed. They should have a dresser. They should have what else? Either a nightstand or maybe just a meal table. They should also have something for heating and cooling in the room, or have a central HVAC. Otherwise, your loved one may be suffering because of the problems with temperature and stuff. There should be at least one table in the room for you to sit on. And what about closet space or wardrobe space? Do they, if it's a wardrobe, if each person has their own wardrobe, that's great. But what if it's a shared closet? If it's a shared closet, how do they separate your loved one's stuff from the other person's stuff? Is there a bathroom in the room? Now, I am unaware of whether there are any nursing homes where you wouldn't find a bathroom in the room. It should have a bathroom, but it may be just a half bath, which is to say there's a toilet and a sink, and that's it. Or it may be a full bath. Is it a bathroom with a bathtub? Is that going to be better for your loved one or worse? Does your loved one have challenges getting into and out of a bathtub? Is there a sit-down spot, like a bench or a fold-down seat or something in the bathtub or the shower to make it easier for that person to take care of themselves in the bath or shower? How big is it? Is the space large enough to accommodate a wheelchair? If they don't have a full bath, where is the community bath? How often do they give baths? Because they'll have to take the person out of the bedroom and into the community bathroom. Let's see. When they're walking you around and showing you the facilities, and I went to this one facility. It's a very nice facility. It had a lot of different options available. There was there were 2 pianos. There was a garden room. There was an outdoor courtyard where you could, do some gardening and other stuff. There were a lot of other nice facilities in there. But then, as we got to the end of it, I asked, well, realistically, which of these is my mom, who's going to be in the locked unit? Which one will she actually have access to? And it turned out that almost none of what I had seen, as wonderful as it was going to be accessible by my mom in the locked ward. And so, it's all wonderful until you find out your mom or dad or whoever it is that you love isn't going to actually use it. And then you can look at it in a different way and say, oh, that swimming pool, which they also had, is useless because my loved one isn't going to have access to it. Most likely. Let's see. Look at if they have like a shop within there. What does the shop offer? Does it offer a lot of junk food, or does it offer proper food? Look at the menu of what's being served every day in the shop, and also for the meals for the residents, and look at what they're serving. Is it a lot of fast food or junk food kind of stuff, or is it better quality food? They won't allow you for health reasons into the kitchen, but ask to speak to the kitchen staff. Ask to speak to the activities director and find out more detailed information, because usually the admissions person or the person who's going to be giving you the tour won't be able to answer specific questions about activities, about therapy and stuff. They can just give you general information. Ask if this person would be interested in going into a salon, if there's an on-site salon. What are the prices for getting a perm, or having their hair washed, or having their hair cut, or something like that? Are the prices reasonable? You can also ask, does the nursing home offer an in-facility savings account that you can voluntarily transfer money from your loved one's account into that savings account, and then when they want to take the your loved one to, say, to a park, or go shopping, or to a restaurant, there'll be money available, so they don't have to contact you and say, hey, I need money because we're going to take your loved one to this place. They can just draw that money out of the account, and just make sure that they are sending you records to let you know when money is being spent. So that they just don't drain the account and then say, hey, the money's all gone, give us more. I mean, admittedly, in my mom's old facility, they did have savings account, and I put, I don't know, $200, I guess it was, into that, and that does count. By the way, I forgot to mention this. Generally, like here in Ohio, the Medicaid doesn't allow you to have anything more than $2,000 of money and non-liquid assets, or frozen assets, that can be converted into cash easily. If you go over that limit, your loved one can lose their Medicaid benefits entirely, and that includes the savings account at the nursing home. So yeah, and make sure, do they have these field trips? Look at the outside. Look at the condition of the building itself. Look around the building. Are they taking care of the grounds? Do the grounds look nice? I mean, is it going to be something pleasant for your loved one to look at when they're outside? Are they going to want to, be strolling around outside, or being pushed around in their wheelchair to look at, the plants and the trees and the birds and the animals and stuff? Or is it just kind of nasty, or non-existent? Is there some kind of a game room or a community room in the area that your loved one is going to have access to? Is there a library, or at least an area where there are books and magazines and newspapers available? Can they use that? Is there an arts and crafts room? Is there maybe a computer room? Let's see. What else? Is this a continuing care retirement community? And what that means is they have it set up so they've got independent living facility, assisted living facility, short-term rehab kind of facility, long-term care, memory care. So if it's a CCRC where they have all or most of those types of care available, generally it's going to be difficult to get that person, not necessarily impossible, but it will be difficult to get your loved one on the waiting list if they even have one. Some places that are CCRCs do not have a waiting list, because people in these tend to graduate from one to the next to the next to the next. So usually there's a lot of internal transferring going on, and if they do have a waiting list, it may take years. Like my mom has been for 2.5 years now on a waiting list for an excellent nursing home very near where I live, and you know it is a CCRC and it's got a really good reputation, so it's very popular with people trying to get in. And I wasn't able to get her on some of the other 5-star. That was a 5-star. There were a couple other 5-stars. I couldn't get her on the list because they didn't have a list. There were a couple others. They said, yeah, well, we can put her on the list, but it's probably going to take a long time because we're a CCRC, or we have a lot of internal transfers or something like that. So that's something to consider. Well, obviously, you don't want to wish somebody to die so your loved one can move in. So, keep that in mind when you're doing that. And that's why you want to get on waiting lists well in advance, as soon as you notice. And, if they call up and say, hey, you know what, we got an opening now, and your loved one is not in need yet, you can say, well, just bump somebody else up above my loved one, put my loved one down one slot lower, and give me a call next time, and we'll see how things are going. And that way you can maintain a good position if they will allow that. Let's see. Again, make sure that about how often the doctors visit, how often the nurse practitioner is going to be visiting each patient. The nurse practitioner should visit at least once a week. One of the problems that I had is the last time I did a care meeting with the team, only 3 members of my mom's team showed up for the meeting, and one of them didn't really talk. And then the other 2 were the nurse and the social worker, and they did most of the talking. And again, the social worker is the one who deliberately caused problems to try and keep my mom there. Losing paperwork, claiming she did things that she didn't do, and stuff like that. And but when I was talking to them, I was asking them questions about my mom's conditions, because I knew my mom's condition, and so I could ask questions. And what they were saying was contradicting my observations. In a significant enough way that I realized that they were either lying to me, or they were not visiting my mom frequently enough to know my mom's situation, and or the nurse's aides and other people who regularly dealt with my mom were not taking notes about my mom's condition and day-to-day challenges with her, and not sharing that during the daily meetings with the rest of the staff. Because when you have a transition from one shift to another, there is a kind of a change of the shift meeting that is, where somebody from the previous shift tells the people in the new shift about the patients relevant to that are in that ward. So ask them, do you do a change of shift or a morning meeting every day? And that's important. They should be doing that every day or every shift. And oh, by the way, as far as staffing is concerned, staffing levels, you will find out that in most places at night they have a smaller staffing than during the day. And that's just because people are going to go to sleep, so there's not as much need for as many people. How often do they have a wound care specialist coming in? And you want to see that, at least a couple times a month would be good. So I think that's pretty much it. You will, by making phone calls before you visit, just asking questions, you will be able to eliminate a lot of nursing homes by looking at rankings with Medicare and Medicaid websites and other websites, and then calling them up and asking them questions. You'll be able to narrow down the list a lot to find the best options for your loved one. It isn't perfect, and it's possible that they will trick you. One thing that I noticed at both my mom's old nursing home as well as at another nursing home that I looked at, the person said to me, I've had family members live here, and I would put another family member in here. Now that may be very genuine, and you may take it correctly as meaning that it's such a great facility that they trust their family with it. Or it may mean that they don't care about their family and just want the money of referring a family member into the nursing home, and they don't care what's going to happen in that nursing home. There are nursing homes out there that are just like horrible places to be in, where there are bed bugs and cockroaches and rodents and neglect and even abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse. And so you really do have to be careful. But if you look for the higher quality ones, 4 and 5 stars, and you read through, they'll give you access to the reports from the inspector who went through and gave them the rating. You can look historically, you can see what kind of charges were brought up against them, what kind of complaints there have been, and whether, so you can see what kind of problems that nursing home typically has or has had in the past. And, if you see things that are concerning and they're recent, then you know probably not a good choice to put your loved one there. I think that's pretty much it as far as the suggestions I can give you are concerned. It's been an hour now, and I hope this has been helpful for you. And I'll try to put some resources in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.